स्वामिन्नमस्ते नतलोकबन्धो कारुण्यसिन्धो पतितं भवाब्धौ मामुद्धरात्मीयकटाक्षदृष्ट्या ऋज्व्यातिकारुण्य सुधाभिवृष्ट्या स्वामिन्नमस्ते 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 स्वामिन्नमस्ते। स्वाराज्य साम्राज्य विभूतिरेषा भवत्कृपा श्रीमहिमप्रसादात् प्राप्ता मया श्रीगुरवे महात्मने नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु। जय गुरु, जय गुरु, जय गुरु। We continue with the Prabhatrishmi talk of 19th July 1997. Self-realization and all-time sadhana. Swamiji says, Samadhi is a state of stillness and quietness. But remember that even to reach the state of meditative absorption, it is from activity that you become non-active. And from that non-active absorption, you will again come back to the active and interactive state in the wakeful state of ours. So, what dominates in us basically is a state of waking. State of waking, state of activity and interaction. Unless the spiritual fruition takes place in this active and interactive state, it can never be useful to us. So, unless the spiritual realization that I am the self and the same self is everywhere, it is the self and self alone, everything alone is the expression of the same self, it can never be useful to us because we are mostly in the wakeful state. We have to be active and interactive, and this knowledge should help us to live without any affectation. Affectation, non-affectedness is liberation. We want liberation from all the disturbances of the mind and intelligence. We want liberation from the shackles of the mind. That is called the bondages that we have. We feel we are constricted. We want a freedom, a vastness. So unless this spiritual fruition, we are able to be in that realization while we are interacting, while we are doing actions, while we are speaking, while we are thinking, in all our viewpoints, we should remain aware of this truth, which does not happen. And that is why, even though we have the knowledge of the self, those of us who are seekers for long, everybody has the knowledge of the self. And that remains as a knowledge. it doesn't help us. It has to be a knowledge, a realization while we are active and interactive. So Swamiji is then asking, what is then ultimately the spiritual goal of a seeker? I'll again remind you, these are the Prabhata Rishmi talks of the mornings. And these are not just talks. Swamiji closes his eyes and sits on his chair and addresses the assembly, the seekers who have come at his feet. And we have all completed our pranam, offering flowers at the holy feet, and we are eagerly drinking the message of wisdom. He is asking for our clarity. He wants to clarify and asking us, what is then ultimately the spiritual goal of a seeker? A seeker should understand that the spiritual knowledge is not the knowledge of the self that we come to know by hearing, listening, reading. It is the realization and remaining in that realization in our wakeful state of interaction and action. So what is ultimately the spiritual goal of a seeker? What does a seeker think of this spiritual goal? Is it to remain absorbed in meditation throughout? Not at all. It is to acquire that illumination or wisdom by virtue of which he will be able to remain constantly in communion with the goal. So, it is not that we go inside us, within us, look within us, try to concentrate and meditate, contemplate on the self, and we realize the self. The self is revealed to us. Our own identity, real identity is revealed. But then we come back to the active world. At that time, what do? So, we have to acquire that illumination and wisdom by virtue of which we will be able to remain constantly in communion with the goal. Constantly we will be connected to the goal. Tattvat aprachyuto bhavet. Tatvibhutaha tadaramaha tattvat aprachyuto bhavet. Tattvam adhyatmikam drishtva tattvam drishtva tu bahyatah tatvibhutaha tadaramaha tattvat aprachyuto bhavet. So, we realize the self inside us. We see the same self everywhere. Tattvam adhyatmikam drishtva. We realize it inside. Tattvam drishtva tu bahyatah. The same self we find everywhere. There is no differentiation, no differential attitude, nothing. It is the same thing. Same consciousness, same presence. The Supreme Presence. Tatvibhutaha. And when it is only one, you are the self. You become the self. Tadaramaha. You rejoice only in that. There is no other thing to be rejoicing. Tattvat aprachyuto bhavet. And while we realize this, we never fall down from that realization. That communication, that contact, that communion we have to have. We have to be nitya yuktaha, as said in Bhagavad Gita. Nitya yuktaha, constantly in communion with the same self. Swamiji then chants this shloka, Sarva bhutasthamaatmanam sarva bhutani chaatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. He who has gained the yogic integration, yoga yuktatma, the one who has got this yogic integration, his contact with the God or with the Atma. That is, he is constantly in touch with the Atma, with equal vision, when he has realized that I am the self, through yogic integration, he understands that I am the self, and he has sarvatra samadarshanaha. He also understands that everywhere it is the same self. Then what happens? He perceives the self as abiding in all beings. Then what happens? Sarva bhutastham atmanam. He finds in all being it is the same self. Sarva bhutani chatmani. And the Atma in everybody. Every being, every creature, everything that has been created. He finds the self and self everywhere. This is 6.29 of Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of any yoga in Bhagavad Gita, many kinds of yoga is described. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga. Swamiji says the purpose of any yoga, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga or the dhyana yoga, must be to give you a vision, a skill, a sublimated nature by virtue of which you will be able to perceive the self as present in all and all as present in the self, which is the meaning of this shloka which Swamiji has chanted. That is, whichever yoga you follow, karma yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, anything, whatever you follow, whichever path, it must give us the ability or skill to remain in communion constantly with the self and understand that this self is in every being and all the beings are in the same self. This verse is clearly a statement about an expansive outlook. So it is not that we sit in meditation and we understand the self. There is something which animates us, that is inside us. We understand it. The mind becomes quiet, restless, restful, and the self gets revealed. It is not perceiving the self in meditation alone. It is to find the self everywhere, without any differentiation, same everywhere. So that gives an expansive outlook, expansive. So whatever actions you do, whatever interactions you have, whatever behavioral traits you have, everything can be purified and sublimated by this knowledge. So this verse is clearly a statement about an expansive outlook, an unbroken, continuous vision where there is no slipping, no fall, no break or gap. The continuous vision will be there. That is how the Jivan Muktas roam about in this world. They don't find any difference. And this is what a seeker has to achieve. How will we achieve? We have to achieve by repeated thinking, repeated vichara, repeatedly trying to understand this knowledge, assimilate it through our talks, thoughts, actions, interactions, everything. We should not forget it. We keep on forgetting it. But by effort, by striving, we have to increase the time of our remembrance and lessen the time of forgetting it. And slowly it will become ours. We don't have to remind ourselves. Nobody has to remind ourselves. As like a new mother, initially people will have to teach how to breastfeed, how to hold the child. She will also think, now I have a child. But after some times, maybe 1 or 2 days, That I am a mother. Nobody will have to tell her. She will do exactly what a mother should do. She will learn it by herself. All the instincts will come to her. Similarly, a seeker, when one thinks that my first identity is a seeker, my dear children, this is what, when we step into the path of spirituality, our identity should become, I am a seeker first. Till now, it was either a daughter and a son, or sister or brother, then wife or husband, mother or father, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, like that. Our identities were like that. Now, the most prominent, prime identity, once we take to this path, is I am a seeker first. And as I am a seeker, all my thoughts, my actions, my interactions should be a seeker-like. I should not fall from what the seeker's characteristics are. What are the characteristics of a seeker? Characteristics of a devotee. Read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Bhagavatam, read the Upanishads. It's all strewn there like gems. How should be our mind? What are the undesirable traits we should get rid of? What are the desirable traits that we should strengthen? And being in that seekerhood, all other things we will do. It's not that we will withdraw from everything. It's not. Living in all the situations that we have in our life, whether favorable or unfavorable, we should behave like a seeker, what a seeker should do. What is the seeker? What is Swamiji has been telling in the last two talks? That a seeker must try to develop this vision of equalness, that the self is everywhere. And to do that, one has to make a practice, give some time, effort, and that one can do only when one wishes and only one loves to be that. And once that is there will not be any kind of coming away from it, withdrawing from it. No slipping, no fall, no break, no or gap. Swamiji says now, never say, I meditated for 1 hour and it was very pleasant. But when I came back to activity, all the meditative benefits disappeared gradually. That is what mostly people say. That either we say that, oh no, we are not able to meditate. When we sit for meditation, so many thoughts come. Thoughts will come. Because the mind's nature is to think. In meditation, we have to see that the thoughts are coming and going. But remain unaffected because you are the self. You are the changeless. You are the unaffected, unconditioned, absolute self. So let the thoughts come and go. Just like suppose we are sitting in our veranda and our house is just by the side of a road, busy road. We'll be seeing so many vehicles going, people walking, children playing, hawkers taking their things which they want to sell. So many things we will see. It will just pass by. But we don't go behind them. In meditation, we are not to go behind our thoughts. Allow them to come, allow them to go. Don't go behind them. But the mind is such that it goes behind them. And that is why we say that, we sat for meditation, but could not meditate because so many thoughts were there. So we have to practice not to go behind them. When you see that the mind has gone behind any thought, has gone quite far, maybe some thought came up and connected many thoughts you started thinking. As soon as you are aware that your mind has gone ahead, bring it back again and be the witness. Let the thoughts come, let the thoughts go. Ultimately, what will happen? All the thoughts will stop. You remain the witness of that also. So, people say that, some say that we could not meditate because thoughts keep coming. So, they have to practice this to be the witness. And some who have progressed a little, they will say, oh, it was very pleasant, we got absorbed. But when we got up from meditation, very slowly the pleasantness went away because we were thrust into the active world. Now, Swamiji says that don't say this. I meditated for 1 hour and it was very pleasant. But when I came back to activity, all the meditative benefits disappeared gradually. What is this self that you are meditating upon? He is asking. Is it an absorptional self? No. The Atma is not merely internal to the body. So Swamiji is explaining that, okay, you have had absorption and now you are complaining that when you got up into the active world, you lost everything. So what were you looking for? Is it the self only in absorption? No. The self is everywhere. Even in the interaction it is there, action it is there, in speech it is there, in thought it is there, in opinions it is there, in viewpoints it is there, everywhere it is. In every creature it is, in every object it is. So, it is not that we are wanting to concentrate upon only the self which is absorptional inside us. He says that, is it that you are meditating upon the absorptional self? No. The Atma is not merely internal to the body. It extends beyond the body. It is universal. As everything is filled with the self, so also everything exists in the self. Everything is filled with the self. So also everything exists in the self. We say that the self is all pervading, filling everything. So also everything exists in the self. In the self, everything is there. That is, in the self actually expresses into the variety. The same self, when we say that the self and self is everywhere, it is everywhere in the same manner. It is pervading everything. So all this plurality, what is that? What are these varieties? Everything is existing in the self. And the self expresses itself into so many kinds of varieties. That is why, in essence, in everything, it is the self and self alone. This is a knowledge that we have to understand, know, assimilate, live in it, and then it becomes ours. We become Jivan Mukta. The Jivan Muktas who roam about with this knowledge as their own, they find this, that the self is all pervading and every variety has actually come out as the expression of the same self. This kind of all-fold perception is what we aim at by yoga sadhana. All-fold perception should be there. The point I wanted to drive home to you is this. Now Swamiji is telling, the scenery is this, no? That it is the Guru Purnima and retreat. Many devotees have come, many seekers have come. Apart from those renunciates who stay in the ashram, all have assembled and they are listening eagerly to these words in the early morning hours. So Swamiji is saying, the point I wanted to drive home to you is this. All of you have come to the ashram and are having an ashram life. The life here is different from the household life. Make use of this divine and spiritual atmosphere of the ashram and strive to attain an inner expansion, an all-fold perception of the self. Whatever you see here, wherever you look at, whatever interactions, exchange of thoughts, words, etc. you make, all should give you a notion of divinity and sublimity. This is an all-fold sadhana. Now Swamiji is talking about people having come to the ashram. Earlier he has said that to learn this equalness, equal vision, one comes to the ashram. To have peace, one comes to the ashram. And now, while talking about this all-fold sadhana, where you see the self in everything and understand that every object, every sentiment, emotion, thoughts, everything is an expression or it is an extension of the self. So while saying that, he says that you have come here in the ashram, so there is a great opportunity to do this sadhana here. The life here is different from the household life. In the household life, there will be many other distractions. All people will not be given to the spiritual path. So there will be various kinds of pulls to the worldly affairs. There will be worldly talks, worldly interests. But here, everything runs with a spiritual aim. So those who have come to the ashram, they must have that eagerness to get tuned with this spirituality which is flowing in the ashram. Make use of this divine and spiritual atmosphere of the ashram and strive to attain an inner expansion, an all-fold perception of the self. So there is lot of opportunity. There is lot of opportunity not to get distracted, not to feel that you are in the worldly life, you have come to a divine spiritual place, and so many opportunities are there. Observe and get in tune with this inner expansion, all-fold perception of the self, the inner expansion. Whatever you see here, wherever you look at, whatever interactions, exchange of thoughts, words, etc. you make, all should give you a notion of divinity and sublimity. This is an all-fold sadhana. So, when seekers come, they should try to, whatever they are doing, they may be doing a little service to the ashram, they may be talking to the other devotees, but in all that, they should not miss the undercurrent, the spirituality and the divinity of the place. They should remember this knowledge that whatever is being done is as an expression and extension of the self and nothing else. So, it is not that I talk to you for half an hour or 1 hour and you listen to the talk and feel sublime for a while. My dear children, in spite of coming to the feet of a realized Mahatma, when he is saying these things and giving us a direction how the mind can be sublimated and purified, which can become expansive and feel the self everywhere. In spite of that, if the seeker does not try to do or does not make effort, then one is missing the opportunities of Guru Sannidhi. And when one comes here and just looks forward to be in the presence of the Guru, when he will talk something, when I will listen, when there will be a satsang, and feel very pleasant, but later on does not introspect, does not remember the truths that he has said, then also one misses the opportunity. You know how much you listen to? More than that should be the manana. That is the reflection and rumination. And more than that should be the contemplation. It will not be useful even if you are in the Guru Sannidhi for years and years. If one does not do introspection and try to develop this divinity and sublimity, try to develop this skill or ability to feel the self everywhere, as the Guru is telling us relentlessly. If through whatever actions, whatever seva, whatever work is given to a seeker while in Guru Sannidhi, one does not try to have this expansive outlook, then one will remain wherever he was. So, introspection is very, very essential. Introspection is essential, vairagya is essential, to grow the qualities, the Shatka Sampattis are essential, mumuksha is essential, the sadhana chatushtayam, which Vedanta tells us, all are essential, all are jointly combined with each other. You start doing one, the others will come to you. So, remaining in Guru Sannidhi, Swamiji is saying, you have to develop this attitude. It's not just that you come, take blessings and go away. Yes, you can do that. But if you really want to be crossing the sufferings of life, that is, if you really want that in life you should be unaffected and always delightful, then you must see the self everywhere. And Swamiji is telling us simple ways how you can do. So while coming to the Guru Sannidhi, look around, whatever is being done. Don't forget this truth. You may talk to the other person, you may discuss something, but remain in the truth, never forgetting it. And also, it is not just listening and being pleasant. It is not that I talk to you for half an hour or 1 hour and you listen to the talk and feel sublime for a while. That is what happens with all devotees and seekers. Early morning they will be doing puja, worship, chanting, reading, lighting a lamp, etc., arati, and feel very sublime and divine. And rest of the time, all pleasantness will go. So a Guru Sannidhi should not be made like that. When you have come to the Guru Sannidhi and you are listening, the listening should not be just a routine of listening. You must understand at least 1 or 2 sentences, pick up and follow that. It should strike us. In the morning, in the prayer hall, the Sahasrama and Gita, Vishnu Sahasranama and Bhagavad Gita are chanted. And then the Pushpa Samarpanam at your Swamiji's feet is performed. You feel sublime by all this. These are all routines, worshipful routines. And everybody feels very sublime. You listen to lectures during the day and participate in the bhajan session in the evening, and you feel very sublime. But in between you get lost. Swamiji is talking about actually what happens to the devotees who come. He must be observing. So he is saying that the prayers you like, both morning and evening, the Pushpa Samarpan you like, and also when Swamiji speaks you like, you feel very divine, very sublime. That's all. The in-between time, when you are eating, when you are meeting others, when you are gone for rest, you are simply lost. Lost from what? Lost from the truth. You don't remember the truth. You are listening to the truth. When Swamiji is talking about all these, this is the ultimate truth that he is talking. Day after day, day after day, day after day. Just imagine. Day after day he is talking about the ultimate truths, the supreme reality. Trying to make it our own. His only aim is to make us feel that self and be expansive. So he is doing that. But the listeners, he says, they feel sublime for a while, but they get lost at other times because the loss, why they are lost? Because they lose the truth. They don't remember the truth. They don't dwell into the truth anymore. They will dwell only when they were listening. But in between you get lost. The link is broken. That kind of feeling should not be there. The opportunity for you to feel sublime is equally there when you are not participating in anything, when you are simply moving about in the ashram. At that time too, the process of sublimation, purification, and refinement should be at work without any break. How beautiful are these sentences! How full of wisdom are these sentences! I'll read it again, and we must analyze it and assess ourselves, relate it to us, and see where we stand. What are we doing? It is not that I talk to you for half an hour or 1 hour and you listen to the talk and feel sublime for a while. In the morning, the Sahasranama and Gita are chanted, and then the Pushpa Samarpanam at your Swamiji's feet is performed. You feel sublime by all this. You listen to lectures during the day and participate in the bhajan session in the evening, and you feel sublime. But in between you get lost. The link is broken. That is, while all these are there is a communion with the divinity. But in between, we are lost. Our mind goes here and there. That kind of feeling should not be there. The opportunity for you to feel sublime is equally there when you are not participating in anything. When you are simply moving about in the ashram. That is, you are not in the programs. Programs are all over and you are moving about in the ashram. Maybe doing your own work, or maybe talking to somebody, maybe just sitting and looking at something. The opportunity is still there to feel sublime and divine. By what? By this thought. Remembering the truth. At that time too, the process of sublimation, purification and refinement should be at work without any break. That without any break. Break will be there because we are not used to it. But we should catch hold of those breaks and again turn the mind to introspection and thought about the self. That is why I say one must love to do sadhana. It is a love. Just like, so many women, those who do not have children, they will come and ask for blessings. Please bless that I get a child. If somebody has one child, they'll come and say, please bless that I get another child. So their love is for to get a child. Whole mind is for that. Similarly, a seeker who is treading this path slowly turn the love towards seeking, towards the self, towards God, understanding that that is the ultimate aim of human life. That alone can give us unaffectedness in life. Recently we met a mother. She has a child. Child is now quite grown up. She had a second child, and that second child passed away within few days of birth. So lot of sorrow. Lot of sorrow, naturally, it is very natural. And her whole mind is focused on to get a blessing, to have another child. And she was saying that she wants another child because the first one is a girl. So if she gets a son, it will be very good. And also the first one will have somebody to talk as brother or sister. Where is the guarantee that the second child, even if there is a second child, it will be a son? Where is the guarantee that, like the actual second birth which she had, second child which she delivered, and that child who passed away, the third one also not be like that? Where is the guarantee? But still, human mind is having the love for only family, wealth, property, and all that. Not understanding that the yearning should be, oh Lord, my mind is getting very disturbed, that I am not wanting another child, but I am not having it. Please tell me how to get rid of this desire of mine. I must understand that it is not going to give me full happiness. The mind doesn't think like that. That is how mostly, even if they are on this path, people are on this path, we do not spend time to develop these refinements. So Swamiji is saying that whatever you are doing, suppose you are not doing anything, even at that time, the process of sublimation, purification, and refinement should be at work without any break. Without any break. Be attentive, be aware. Then he says, fill every moment of your life with divinity. Mark these words. Fill every moment of your life with divinity. Let the divine thoughts radiate from your being. Divine thoughts radiate from your being. Become a ball of divinity, a flame of divinity. My dear children, I've read these paras so many times. Every time I feel a horripilation. Who will tell us these? Become a ball of divinity, become a flame of divinity. Every parent, every elder will tell the children that you must study and earn money and more comfort, more luxury, name and fame. All those are transitory, they never say. They never tell that, along with that, also grow in divinity, find God everywhere. In everything find the substratum, the divine substratum. Nobody tells us. Who tells us? The Guru alone will tell us. And relentlessly he will tell us. He never gets disappointed, even if the people who are listening, they do not follow. They do not make any effort. They do not succeed. And whatever he feels they should be, they do not even want to become that. But he doesn't get disappointed. That is the lakshana of a Jivan Mukta. Na krishyati na shochati. He neither becomes too elated, nor he becomes depressed. He finds the same everywhere. But he does what he is supposed to do. Show the path, show the divine path. Like, holding the hand with a torch, he's going ahead, holding the hands of humankind and telling that there is a destination, remaining where, reaching where, you will feel that there is nothing else, nothing more to achieve, where you will be unaffected by any misery. He's taking us to this path because that is what is his job in this world. Fill every moment of your life with divinity. Let divine thoughts radiate from your being. Become a ball of divinity, a flame of divinity. Be a spiritual being, a spiritual person. Let spirituality be felt by you. To feel so is your task, endeavor, and challenge. To feel so is your task, endeavor, and challenge. If you are a seeker, it is our responsibility to be so. It is our responsibility to be so. So, to feel so is your task, endeavor, and challenge. When the mind becomes pure, when the thoughts become noble, and when the intelligence becomes self-reminding about divinity, God, self, and truth, then you will become spiritual. He says that be a spiritual being. I'll again read. Fill every moment of your life with divinity. Every moment. Try it. Try it. Now we are not. But make an effort to make every moment to be divine. Let divine thoughts radiate from your being. Become a ball of divinity, a flame of divinity. Be a spiritual being, a spiritual person. Let spirituality be felt by you. To feel so is your task, endeavor, and challenge. When the mind becomes pure, when the thoughts become noble, so we have to constantly be aware, alert, remove the undesirable traits, undesirable tendencies, and bring forth and strengthen the desirable traits and tendencies. When the mind becomes pure, when the thoughts become noble, and when the intelligence becomes self-reminding about divinity, God, self, and truth. What does this mean? Intelligence becomes self-reminding. The intelligence becomes so sattvika that it remembers itself to have divine thoughts, divine feelings. Nobody else has to tell you. It doesn't remain an effort anymore. The intelligence itself remembers that I am a divine being, so I should act accordingly. When the mind becomes pure, when the thoughts become noble, and when the intelligence becomes self-reminding, remember that, self-reminding. It is not reading a book, it is not listening to a lecture, it is not remaining in meditation, it is not coming to a Mahatma and looking at his face. Self-reminding the intelligence has to become, and that is what a guru is trying to make us. With his association, he is transferring these thoughts to us that let the intelligence become self-reminding. It should be spontaneously remembering that you are the divinity, you are God, you are self, and you are the truth. Then alone you become spiritual. Otherwise, we cannot say that we are spiritual. It is not that you acquire it all of a sudden in half an hour's meditation. No. That transformation should be all-fold in the wakeful, active hours. It will not come through half an hour's meditation in one day or many days. It has to be through every moment of progress. And how will you progress every moment? By repeatedly remembering, repeatedly self-reminding, repeatedly your mind will go away from the thought, repeatedly bring it back and remember the truth. Then alone. So, try this all-fold sadhana. Learn it, practice it, strive for it. Move about and live in the ashram, enjoying every moment the spiritual grace. The spiritual grace which is flowing here, the grace of the Mahatma, which is completely invisible, but it is there. So, move about and live in the ashram, enjoying every moment the spiritual grace. Generate spirituality through each and every action and interaction. What prevents you from being so? At least when you are here, you do not have to do much. You do not have much work to do. You do not have to cook your food. All that you have to do is to look after your personal needs like bathing, washing, etc. That is all. He's telling the devotees who have come for the retreat mostly that you don't have to do any household work here. You don't have to cook food. You don't have to go to market. You don't have to think today what is the menu. You don't have to go to the office. So in remaining here throughout the day, what are you doing in the moments when you are not doing anything? That is, the ashram programs are there, morning and evening, prayers are there, Pushpa Samarpanam is there, Swamiji may talk, Prabhat Rashmi, there will be a satsang. Apart from that, the time that you are having for yourself, you don't have to do any work. Are you thinking about the truth? Are you thinking about the truth? Or you are feeling that there is no work. Many people when they come here, they say, there is no work, there is no work. Why don't you sit somewhere and think or read something and contemplate? See how you are away from it or you have attained it. So people are so active that they cannot sit quietly even. Many people have this problem. When they come, they say, we don't have any work to do. So they don't like. Maximum 1 or 2 days, then they want to go. Without work, how will we stay? That is true. Everybody likes to do something productive or something useful, even for the place where they are. But when there is an opportunity in the household, we do not get that opportunity. Every householder has to have so much of work to do. So many things come up. So when you get an opportunity, take that opportunity. The Samadhi Mandir is there. Why don't you go and sit there and meditate for some time? Why don't you read the books and try to understand? Ask somebody, the fellow seekers who have come, discuss with them. But no, people will feel, oh, this time is nothing to do in these periods. So Swamiji is saying, generate spirituality through each and every action and interaction. What prevents you from being so? At least when you are here, you do not have much work to do. You do not have to cook your food. All that you have to do is to look after your personal needs, like bathing, washing, etc. That is all. Then, why not try always to generate divinity in you? Drop all desires. Understand that the world is fleeting. Become sublime and radiate sublimity. Get away from the constrictions of your mind. Dissolve the ego and undue preferences and prejudices. The ashram is here. We are here to facilitate the inner process of expansion. Spend time with me. Ask me if you have any doubts or difficulties. The secrets, if any, the divine clues, all I shall explain and emphasize as much as you want. But Swamiji himself many times says that nobody asks me any questions. Why is it that they don't ask me question? Even in the satsangs, night satsang, we every day have an after dinner satsang. Why is it that I do not ask questions? In our interactions also, now that we are also going around and talking, meeting people, youngsters and even elders, the seekers. So I was saying that at least we can tell this, Swamiji, please tell me why I am not having any question. This can be a question. Because if we strive, make an effort, question is bound to be there. That I have not understood. Swamiji has explained so much about self and self everywhere. Self is an all-fold sadhana. But still I don't understand in my day-to-day life, what should I think, what should I do so that I am always connected to the self. Swamiji himself has said that you have to be in communion. It is to acquire that illumination or wisdom by virtue of which the seeker will be able to remain constantly in communion with the goal. So the question can be this, Swamiji, everything is very clear, but still, in practice, what should I think? What should I do? While I am doing household work, while I am doing professional work, what should be my thought? Can I be thinking only that, oh, it is self, it is self, it is self? Or what exactly is the thought? These should be the questions. So Swamiji says that ask, then I shall explain and emphasize as much as you want. May the process be smooth, easy and comfortable. Make sure that every moment of your life here becomes divine. You have to become divine. There is no alternative. Be spiritual, and this spirituality is accomplished by bringing more and more of purity or sublimity to your own mind and intelligence. Always try to feel the sublimity. It is your privilege, birthright, possibility, and also compulsion. We should always love purity, love sublimity. And Swamiji says it is your privilege, birthright, possibility, and also compulsion. And how will we do it? Swamiji says, drop all desires. Understand that the world is fleeting. Become sublime and radiate sublimity. Get away from the constrictions of your mind. Dissolve the ego and undue preferences and prejudices. So, constantly there should be an awareness, attention, and alertness that am I being directed by, guided by my self-interest desires, personal desires. We should remember that the world is fleeting. We should remember that this world is Kshana Bhangura, very, very fleeting, transitory, momentary, ephemeral. Everything is constantly changing. We want to hold on to them, but we are not able to. Maybe a good period will be quite long, but still it will be over. Something will happen. Maybe some disease, maybe some death, maybe some kind of relocation of place. We will not be able to hold on to our good times. So, know that it is fleeting. Become sublime and radiate sublimity. Get away from the constrictions of your mind. Become expansive. Dissolve the ego and undue preferences and prejudices. All that we constantly hold on to preferences. Only I will be happy if my life, which I have planned like this, should happen. It doesn't happen, so you become sad, depressed, complainful, lamenting. So, sublimity is our privilege, our birthright, possibility, and compulsion. So, remember this. How much Swamiji is talking about purity and sublimity. Purity and sublimity. I think if we just read this constantly, then we will be able to understand it and remember that what we have to do, how we have to go forward in this. Introspection is very, very necessary. I'm remembering one incident that Swamiji is saying here, no? It is not that I talk to you for half an hour or 1 hour and you listen to the talk and feel sublime for a while. So those days, in the early days, Swamiji used to take a morning Upanishadic class every day from 9:30 to 10:30. So, he was taking, one by one, he took the Upanishads, Kenopanishad, Kathopanishad, Mundakopanishad, Mandukyopanishad and everything. But sometimes, those days Swamiji was quite active, and in the ashram always some kind of construction would be going on. So Swamiji was very fond of going to the construction sites. Swamiji was very fond of going to the construction sites and see the works of the masons. The carpenters will be making doors and windows. He would spend some time with them. So, sometimes he used to become late in coming and starting the classes. So it so happened that initially he would come by 10 minutes, he will come 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. So sometimes it would become maybe half an hour late also, because if something was important, he had to give direction to them. And that 9:30 to 10:30 was a peak and prime time for the workers to work. In the beginning of the day, they needed guidance. So, when he would be late, what we will do, whatever slokas we have learned so far, we will be chanting them in chorus. Sometimes we will finish one time of chanting, second time of chanting also. So one day, Swamiji was quite late and we had all chanted twice or maybe thrice. Then he came. So that day, maybe I was feeling a little disturbed or a little affected that the class is every day getting so much disturbed and Swamiji is not able to come in time. That is, the 1 hour class was not 1 hour. So when he is taking the class, we are feeling very divine and sublime. And that is getting reduced in time. So one day when he was late, I told Swamiji that, Swamiji, these days every day you are coming quite late. And see, today it is so late. So that day Swamiji looked quite intently at my face and told me, what of that? I have taught you many shlokas from many Upanishads. Have you learned them? Have you done reflection on them? Have you assimilated them? If not, why are you complaining? Should you not do that instead of looking for new and new slokas? It was such a revelation. That is what happens. We just want to hear. We just want to be in the association. We just want to look up and listen and listen. Our part we should do. What is that? Whatever we have read or heard, we should make it ours, our own. So that is what Swamiji is telling in this. Fill every moment. If we do that. If we start remembering it, not maybe continuously initially, but we remember it, dwell in that, feel very happy and pleasant and delighted, what will happen? Every moment of the life will be filled with divinity. This is what he is saying. Fill every moment of your life with divinity. Let divine thoughts radiate from your being. Suppose whatever we are hearing, say I am talking about this particular incident, whatever shlokas we had learned from that particular Upanishad, I don't remember which one. So many beautiful shlokas are there. Suppose instead of lamenting that, oh, Swamiji is coming late, today he has come late and he has not taken up new verse, we just dwell on what we have heard. That moment will be divine. That moment will be sublime. That is how we have to do. That is what Swamiji is saying, that it is our birthright. It should be our compulsion. It is privilege, no doubt. It is our birthright, no doubt. But it should be our compulsion to do. Think about it, dwell on that, and we'll find that we really become a ball of divinity, a flame of divinity. Okay. Sampurnam jagadevanandanavanam sarvepi kalpadrumaha Gangam vari samasta vari nivaha punya samasta kriyaha vacha prakrita samskrita shruti shiro varanasi medini sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya Drishti parabrahmani sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya Drishti parabrahmani. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru.